Hey everyone, and welcome to the weekly live stream. This is Nicole, and today's program is a little different than the one I had planned on. I was going to do a program about a social media ad campaign that I ran last week. It's kind of a part two of what I was doing last week. And the problem was that I micro-targeted a little bit too hard, and the ads weren't getting shown the way they should to give us an amount of data that would be even meaningful to talk about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that part two next week. So don't worry, it's coming. It's just one of those things where sometimes you try to do something and maybe you're a little too ambitious and it doesn't quite work the way you expect. So I want to give myself time to change that campaign and relaunch it going forward. But today, don't worry, I still have something to talk about. It was one of those things when I was planning my stuff, I was like, oh, right. I've got the $1.80 thing I was doing. And I said I'd talk about it after I was doing it for a month, which actually would be this week. So I've been doing this for a month. And I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to move that up and I'm going to just kind of switch these two things around. So that's what we're talking about today. So if you don't know what $1.80 is, that's totally okay. You can go back wherever you're watching this now and watch that video to talk about my first week doing this. By the way, if you enjoy these videos, you can watch them wherever you're watching this now, but the best place probably to watch them is on YouTube, just because you can do things like make playlists there. So feel free to subscribe there or just follow me wherever you're watching this, and you'll definitely see that video further up in the stream. But basically, the idea of $1.80 is it's a way to engage with Instagram in kind of a systematized way. And you basically leave comments on different Instagram accounts by following different hashtags and things like that. So you can go watch part one if you want to see kind of how that went. What I want to talk about a little bit is, what does doing this for a month actually do for you as a business or as just someone on Instagram who wants to do a little bit more? So, as usual, I wanted to show some data. So it's important to know that obviously a number of followers can be important. But more important than the number of followers you have on any social media platform is how engaged they are. So if I had, I don't know, let's say I had 2 million followers, but none of them ever bought anything I talked about or watched any of my videos, an advertiser would not be super impressed with that, and I wouldn't blame them. So besides the number of followers, which comes into play sometimes, we also care about a little metric called engagement rate. So engagement rate can be calculated by the total amount of interactions divided by your reach times 100. That seems to be the calculation that most people use when they talk about engagement rate. And in terms of engagement rate, you might say, okay, well, I have a number, like, is it a good number? And it seems like, in terms of a couple of different sources I looked at, that most influencers, so you know who I'm talking about, have an engagement rate at between 1 and 3%. And 3% is considered pretty good. I guess people with very large audiences, I was reading in a separate study, have about 4% engagement. So we're still within this order of magnitude of, you don't have to have a huge amount of engagement for your engagement to be impressive enough for you to be an influencer. So let's take a look at, so let's keep this in mind, right? So calculating engagement rate, I'm just going to put this on the screen again. Total interactions divided by reach times 100. So you get a percentage, right? So let's take a look at the engagement ring I've got going on. So I looked at my information from two different places. Here's the thing. It's kind of like if you're weighing yourself on a scale, as long as you keep getting on the same scale, I think it's fair to kind of compare yourself over a period of time. So let's take a look. This is called Social Blade. So Social Blade is, and it had me authenticate, by the way. So it pulled in this data. If you are a giant influencer, you can just see people's data if they're giant. But if you're a little like me, you have to, I think, authenticate to be able to see it. I love that giant grade right in the middle of the page. But here is the thing. Look at my engagement rank, which is kind of the top sort of middle. It's underneath the name of my account. There's, uploads, followers. So we have an engagement rate of 1%. Now, it definitely wasn't that when I was starting, at all. And as you see over this time period, so right below the C+ grade, you see that I got 27 new followers over the last 30 days. Now, is that necessarily impressive? I'm guessing not. I mean, it's great. 27 new followers, wonderful. Love and light. I'm happy that you're following me. I'm probably following you. So what I also did though, besides looking at Social Blade, I also looked at my Instagram stats. So this is like you go into Instagram, you click on Insights, and one of the things you can do, it shows you 7 days by default. But what I did is I picked the last 30 days because that's what I'm doing this. So as you see, I've gotten 1,323% more interactions over the last 30 days than I did the previous 30 days. And the only thing I was trying to be consistent about uploading new content 3 times a week. So I was posting to Instagram 3 times a week, and I was doing this $1.80. So I haven't paid for any ads on this account at all. Like, so these experiments I've been doing, I don't want you to think that the ads I've been taking out have to do with this account because they don't. And as you see here, um, I've gotten, my follower count, even though it's only 27, has increased by 3.6%. So not bad for a 30-day period. So yeah, so like, did I see actual number changes? I did. And do I have the engagement rate of an influencer? I'm getting there. So basically, by the way, if you want to learn more about influencers and if you just want a really good blog to follow, I really like the social media scheduling software Later has a really nice blog, but they also periodically do these in-depth reports. And they do have a report about influencer marketing. Now, if you're a business watching this and being like, well, maybe I want to work with influencers, like I see that large companies are doing that. And as a maybe smaller company, I'm still interested in doing that. You need to understand, and this report kind of goes into it, is that it's not, you don't need like to work with someone that has 2 million followers to get some return from working with an influencer. There's a lot of micro influencers, and apparently, like, so I'm a nano influencer because I have under 1,000 people, but micro influencers typically have between 1,000 and 10,000 followers. And a lot of people really like working with them because not only are they, you know what I mean? They're a smaller company, like you're a smaller company, but also sometimes they can be, sometimes their engagement rate is actually better, and that's what this report says: is the less followers you have, typically the more engaged they are. So all this to say is that if you're considering this kind of thing, and you want to work with Instagram people, just followers is not the only number that we should care about. So besides like increasing my whatever engage besides like increasing my whatever engagement rate by 1,300% over the last month, what else did I learn doing $1.80? The other thing so there's a couple of things. First of all, I got a little bit, what happens is when you leave a comment, it like leaves it in the queue. So it slowly posts the comment so that you're not flagged for spam. I actually got flagged for spam, even though I was leaving less than 10 comments a day, because something about the way it was happening. I ended up reporting it to $1.80. They were super responsive. They told me how to fix it. I had to like kind of re-log in and everything, and then it worked again. So just, if you post your comments, you have to actually check that they posted, and it will say on the very top bar that they have or they haven't. And if they haven't, obviously, you can reach out to support, or you can simply try reconnecting it. So if that happens to you, I just want to say that you're not alone. But besides learning that I might have to reconnect, I will say that it seems like a good way to grow an Instagram audience over time. I am never going to do the paid version because I do not want to leave 90 comments a day on Instagram. First of all, I don't have the interest. Second of all, I don't have the time. It does seem like even doing the light version of this seems to have some very positive effects, especially if you have a very small account like mine. So I will say that it seems to be good for posting new content and kind of a way to hold yourself a little bit accountable. I will say that my big hurdle with Instagram is I just didn't like it. I just didn't I was like, "Oh," like, I feel like people just post because I followed a lot of people that I already know in real life, so and I know these people on Facebook, and I'm like, "They're just posting the same content they post on Facebook." But what I understood is that, like, if I was gonna be on Instagram in a real way, I had to give the platform a chance and not say like, "Oh, this is just stuff I've seen somewhere else already." And I ended up, enjoying being on Instagram, not scrolling through my feed, but like actually following hashtags of content that I was interested in. For example, I learned a lot about UX design kind of as a side thing because there's a lot of really great UX designers that post slideshows of content. I talk about best practices with design, which is something that I really appreciated learning more about. And even though I haven't sought out this information. I appreciated kind of seeing it. And so I started seeing Instagram not just as a place where my friends would repost the same stuff they post on Facebook, but also a place where people were having real conversations about social issues, where people were sharing information in terms of, stuff about marketing and UX design and topics that I'm interested in. So it kind of made me like Instagram a little bit more than just, like I said, scrolling through my feed on my phone would have. I kind of was feeling like I was using it in a more business-like way by using the software. And I guess the final thing is that I really liked how it connected me with new people because since I was following hashtags, I was able to discover new people. Like, for example, like there's this amazing illustrator and I was like, wow, like she's so talented. And then I went on her account. I saw she had like less than 300 followers. And I felt like I had like discovered someone really talented that like whose career I wanted to follow and maybe work with on some projects. So um, I just thought I was like, I would have never met this person otherwise if I hadn't been using this $80 thing to follow specific hashtags about women owned businesses, for example. That's how I ended up finding her. So, all this to say is that I think it's a worthwhile use of your time if you do want to get more into using Instagram in a purposeful way. And if you're somebody who potentially wants to become an influencer or you want to, work with other businesses in general, by being more visible on Instagram, it kind of makes you a little bit more of a compelling person to work with, I think. So, I would say give $80 a chance. It doesn't have to take long. I will say, like in part one, the first, week or so, it takes a little bit for you to fall into a groove, but once you do, it's pretty straightforward. So yeah. So give it a shot. If I'm gonna, I endorse it at the light level. I'm not saying I would pay for it because leaving 90 comments a day does sound a little bit too intense for me, and maybe it also seems a little bit too intense for you as well. So, yeah, so thanks so much for watching. And if you have any topics or questions or comments, feel free to feel free to post them wherever you're watching this video. You can also follow on any social media site. I also threw Calendly in there because, if you want to book a consultation, you can do it on our website or you can just go right to our Calendly link and book it there. So, yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a great week. And I'll see you next week with that Clash of the Social Media Ads Part 2. And I think I'm going to try, since I have another week, I'm going to try maybe a couple of other things. So stay tuned for that. Hey, you got to learn from things that you try. And I certainly have. So have a great week. And I will see you Tuesday. If you like what you're watching, feel free to follow me or like me or subscribe wherever you're seeing this right now. All right. Have a good one.